the more valuable you can make yourself by your knowledge and your mindset, your capabilities, your expertise, the more attractive you are to having prospects and clients want to work with you.
Hi, this is Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether it's Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed. Smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. In this episode, we are finally going to conclude with part number 3 of our series on 30 years of coaching wisdom, quote unquote, in 30 minutes. Obviously, we've gone longer than that. So let's kick off this episode with the next subject, which is going to be improving you, continuous and constant learning. So one of the things that's incredibly important, I watch this in all my top level advisors. They are learners. They are curious. And when I say learning, I'm not necessarily talking about designation hunting. I'm talking about they stay up with industry trends. They're always looking to refine their skills, always looking to improve their knowledge base. And that's just something that's really important. In fact, we have a real, in terms of like professional and personal development, one of our rule sets here inside Magellan Network is that we ask every member, and myself, I ask every one of my personal clients to take 5% of their top line just for coaching, 5%. And then another 5% for personal development, and that can include fitness trainers, nutritionists, gym memberships, conferences, mastermind groups, trainings, Audible memberships, like all that, right? Why? Because ultimately, you are the product. The old saying, people buy you first. And it's still true today. The more valuable you can make yourself by your knowledge and your mindset, your capabilities, your expertise, the more attractive you are to having prospects and clients want to work with you. So this is not, again, about you can go collect a bunch of designations, that's fine, and you'll be smart. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be super successful. Case in point, if that was true, like the more designation, the more money you would make, then anybody with an MBA have $1 billion under management, right? And we simply know that's not true. So use the 5 and 5 principle, 5% pure coaching, 5% in development of you, personal and professional, total of 10. I'm gonna keep that simple. Let's say 10% is $100,000. And some of you are going, oh my God, Joe, you would really invest $100,000 in yourself? Yeah, I do more than that.
I take 10%. Double that. And you can hire the best coaches. You can go to the best programs. You can join the most exclusive masterminds. You can go get a concierge doctor. You can go get an anti-aging doctor. You can go get a fitness instructor. You can go get an nutrition. Like all those things. Like you think about like world-class athletes like LeBron James and all these other athletes. They have not the word posse, but they have teams of professionals, from nutritionists to cooks to masseuses to stretching coaches, strength coaches, sports psychologists, right? All on the payroll to make them the best version of them. So guess what? If it works for them, it works for us. And that's been my experience over 30 years. What's next? Relationships. So we are in the people business, and you want to nurture from day one in this game to the last day you're in this game. Hopefully that's 40 or 50 years at least. You want to never burn a bridge. And the reason why I say that is it's a small game. There are hundreds of thousands of advisors, but it still feels like a small community. Go to any conference, you'll probably see the same people. So I work very hard at my reputation. And what I mean by that is I have a very strong belief that I tell advisors this. I say, look, I don't know if you're a good fit for me, so here's what I'm going to say to you. And I tell them this. I said, I would rather you have no experience with me than a bad one. So in other words, if I don't feel very confident that our collaboration is going to produce the results you want, then we're not going to do it. Because I want to protect my reputation. And I know that may sound selfish, but I don't want the person to have a bad experience because maybe we're not a good fit. And I'm not a good fit for everyone. Now, I believe that everybody should be in a relationship with a coach. But I also know that I'm not the right coach for actually most advisors. I'm very specific who I work with. But bottom line is you build relationships with your CPAs, your COIs, your attorneys, your team, your clients, other people in the game, your colleagues, your competitors. Because at the end of the day in this game, it's all about who can you call when you need something or need help with something. And yes, I'm all for self-reliance. Trust me, I'm a big self-reliance person. But even with that said, you want to have your Rolodex of people, right? Recently, I just met somebody for the very first time. I've known this person for over 20 years. Her and I refer clients back and forth, and we were finally at the same conference at the same time. And we finally got to meet. But I feel like I've known her for decades, because I have. And that's the way you measure it, okay? So make deposits in your people and in your personal and professional relationships. What's next? Time management or managing your day. So let's talk about time management versus task management. Unless you get paid by the hour, measuring time, in my experiences, tend to be kind of irrelevant. This is an output game. So I'll give you an example. Let's just say you say, I'm going to do business development today. So you say to yourself, or every day, and you say, I'm going to spend an hour a day in business development mode. Great. And you block out the time. Maybe you use your phone. You set a timer, or whatever, and you call people, text people, email people, message people, whatever. But then somebody shows up, you get a response or an inbox, down come in, right, or client calls, whatever, and then all that gets kind of sideways, and that will happen probably 9 out of 10 days. So you can put the time in. Like, this is the interesting part. Clients will tell me, well, prospects first, then clients. But prospects would tell me, they would sort of, Joe, I get in the office 8 o'clock, I don't leave till 6. And I said, okay. And I take maybe 1 or 2 weeks vacation a year. Okay. Then why are we not achieving greatness? Because they think that the game is how much time you sit in the chair or stand, when it's really about output. So when I put together a daily game plan, I never say, we're going to spend 30 minutes doing this, or an hour spending this, or 2 hours in this. No. Like, how many contacts are we going to make every day? How many meetings are we going to set every day? How many introduction conversations are we going to do every day? And it's about action. It's about activity, not about time. And so for some of you are caught up in and this is the way the brain works, by the way. I'm not trying to go sidebar on this, but I'm going to take a little detour for a moment. Here's the way the brain works. If you tell yourself every day that I'm here till 6 o'clock, let's say that was your gig, you go in, your brain goes into I'll do it later mode. Because I'm here till 6, so I don't need to do it now, I can do it later. I can pretend to do stuff like check my inbox or do research or watch CNBC or maybe see who's injured on my fantasy football league. I don't know. But I'm here till 6 o'clock. So what's the difference, right? And if you were to really, and I never recommend this because it's just a waste of time, but let's just say hypothetically you would track your time. I guarantee you're wasting half the day in just BS stuff. So you're 8 to 6, it's like 8 to 12, basically. Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Always have a start time, which most of you have. And don't say, I'll try to get in by. No, what's your commitment to getting in by? And then here's where a lot of you fail. You do not have a walk away time. Like, okay, 4 o'clock, I'm walking out. 5 o'clock, I'm done. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what didn't get done. I'm just going to leave. And if I got to get up early tomorrow to catch up, I'll do it tomorrow morning. So many advisors create such bad habits because they leave the end of the day open-ended. And it creates some very, very bad habits that are hard to break. So at minimum, go ahead and compress your day. Tell yourself, oh, Joe, I have no time to go to the gym. You know what? Wrap up your day at 4 o'clock, hit the gym, go home. You'll be more productive. Seriously, right? So when we talk about effective time management, don't get caught up in playing the time game. I want you to think about day management, energy output, and output management. And please, please, please put an end on the day. And everybody's going to be different. I'm not saying it should be 4 or 5 or 6 or 3. But I've got clients that do a lot of things in the afternoon, like with their kids, coach football or baseball, lacrosse, hockey, whatever. And it's funny, man, they got to roll out of there at 3 o'clock for practice during seasons, and they're still as productive as they were when they don't have it. So what does that tell you about how much time is wasted inside this game? And the last thing I'll say on this is think about the week before you're going on vacation, how productive you are. Why? Because you need to get stuff done, and you have no time to BS around. All right? Next, adaptability. The one thing I've watched in almost 32 years now is this game will always change. There are some things, the principles are always the same, but the rules will change. And from transactional to now advisory, from manual to automation to now artificial intelligence, we're going to adapt. And a lot of people, it's interesting, a lot of advisors from time to time will reach out and say, Joe, what do you think about, now I got the whole thing. Joe, do you think AI is going to put us out of business? Well, I remember 5 years ago, it was the DOL was going to put us out of business. And before that, it was the robo-advisors. And before that, it was the discount brokers. And so on, and so on, and so on. So guess what? This industry of ours is highly adaptable. It will always find a way to make money. It just does, period, right? So bottom line is you have to be willing to evolve and change, and you get in the whole concept of, well, I'm kind of, rigid mindset and I am who I am. Well, that puts you at such a disadvantage when change happens quickly now. I truly believe, here we are, mid-November 2025. If we were to look back and go forward 2 years, 2027, there's not a piece of your game that's not going to be touched by artificial intelligence. So if you're like, oh man, that's like the boogeyman or boogie person, and I'm not going to touch that, it's like saying back in 1990, you know what, that internet thing, I'm not going to play with it. It's just a fad. All right? So get with the program. Next, leadership. So I don't care if you're building a part-time team of 1 assistant or you have 70 people on your team and anything in between. At the end of the day, the higher you want to scale your success, the less it is about you being a great advisor as it is about being a great leader, mentor, entrepreneur, and business operator, period, and visionary. So the bottom line is, this is not, if you want to go from making $1 million a year or a couple $100,000 a year to $1 million a year, to several $1 million a year, to tens of $1 millions a year. You have to understand each one of those, each stage of that ascension is a different game with a different set of rules, with a different set of requirements. Don't fall into the trap that I can just work harder or it doesn't work that way. And that's why for a lot of you, and if we were to look at your production over the last decade, I can tell you just by looking at your trajectory where you're at and how you think. Why? Because the numbers never lie, and that's the beauty of this game. That's why I love this game so much, is there's no BS. You can't tell me how hard you're working and how much you're committed and stuff like that if you're flat or down or growing at 2 or 3% a year, right? Especially for some of you, oh man, we're growing at 20, 25% a year. Well, take the market out. Take the market out, the market growth. Now what does your business look like? Are you really growing? Or do you just have a sugar high because the market's been on a run the last several years? Like, be careful how you pat yourself on the back about how well you're doing and how good you are when it may not be true. And that's just the harsh reality, right? So this is about leading yourself, leading your team, leading your clients, building a team, fostering a collaborative environment of empowerment. You need to empower your people. Micromanagers fall in this game. Why? Because you cannot scale micromanagement. And some of you have big trust issues. And this is why you're not scaling. Because you don't trust your people, either A, because you don't have the right people, or B, you have the right people and haven't empowered them because that makes you uncomfortable, which, by the way, is all part of the game. And the last thing I'm going to say, and we'll get you guys out of here, is reflection time, getting away from the game, looking at things and seeing them for what they truly are. Like, are we really just being busy to be busy, or are we really moving the needle? Like I just said, if you were to scrape the market growth out, what does your business look like? And I'm going to give you a key indicator of how well you're doing in terms of the growth game. When an advisor comes to me for a conversation about whether they should retain me personally or go into one of our group programs or things like that, one of the things I always ask is, in the last 12 to 24 months, how much money have you raised? A lot of times I hear, well, net new. I said, I don't care about net. Net doesn't tell me. Net tells me nothing. Because you can have a client that needs $25 million for their house in Maui, and they take their money. Is that any fault of yours? No. Do you have a client die? Is that any fault of yours? No. So I care about how much money you attract, right? Not what the market did to it, but how much money did you attract the last 12 to 24 months? And based upon that answer, then I know how serious you are about business development, growth, and so on. And some of you are saying, well, Joe, what's the number? I can't give you a number because it depends, right? But I would tell you, if I was in front of a room, this is per advisor. Okay, so if you have 2 or 3 partner team, extrapolate. $8 to $12 million a year, new money. Minimum per advisor on team, average. Okay? That's what we look at. Now, you're not going to be able to do that unless you do what? Stop and measure and assess. And you got to just you can't run around this race blind. Like some of you run your businesses and are looking to grow and scale with like a blindfold on, and you're running at full steam, and you have no idea if you're going to run into a pole, run off a cliff, run into traffic. No idea. Because you're not stopping to look and assess. One of the things that is critical, especially the higher up the ascension chain you go, is taking time to be strategic, to reflect, assess, measure, modify, so you can continue growing your game. It's not just about more effort. In fact, this is going to sound very counterintuitive. The bigger your game is, the less effort should be in the game because you have the right people around you, you have momentum, you're delegating, leading effectively. And I'm not saying you're not working, so don't come like, oh, I'm going to put my feet up. No. So here's the difference. When you start the game, you're working with you. The bigger you get, the more you work through others. And when you work through others, you have the ultimate leverage. But you got to develop that. All right? So those are some principles over the last 31, almost 32 years that I've noticed So if you're watching or listening to a module, this third piece, make sure you go back to 1 and 2. Get the whole series. I know it's more than 30 minutes, but I want to give it its due time. Thank you for watching or listening to the Magellan Network Show. If you want a trial of our new Coach Joe AI, please go to MagellanNetwork.net and put in an application for a trial membership. And remember, like today's episode, subscribe to our channels, forward this episode to a colleague in a game, and I will see you all again in 7 days.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game both personally and professionally.